I don't know about you, but I need some good news. Here's 3 pieces of good news that we found out this week in the world of plastic and toxic chemicals. Number 1, Oral-B Glide dental floss is now safe to use. Lots of people had no idea that it was not safe to use, but Oral-B Glide dental floss was found to have really high amounts of PFAS, which are known as the toxic forever chemical that are linked to lots of different types of cancer and like brain cancer, right? That's because they were to be made out of one single strand of Teflon floss. And there were studies showing that when people used that Teflon dental floss, Oral-B Glide, it actually increased the amounts of PFAS, that toxic cancer-causing chemical, in their body. Yikes. One of the states that banned most applications of PFAS, the toxic forever chemical, was Minnesota. So some journalists went ahead and tested some Oral-B Glide dental floss in January to see if it was still toxic, and guess what? It was not. What this means is now Oral-B Glide dental floss is now no longer made out of PFAS, and it is now, as far as we know, safe to use. That's awesome. Number 2, even though Trump has rescinded a lot of regulations on our water and specifically PFAS, the toxic forever chemical, what is good is that states are now taking action. Across the country, lawmakers have introduced at least 250 PFAS bills in 36 different states this year alone, right? They are aiming to ban the chemicals from lots of our consumer products, tighten water limits, and fund major cleanups, right? Again, the federal government had arranged for all of this to be done already. Under the Biden administration, PFAS were designated as Superfund chemicals, which means that companies that polluted the PFAS there to begin with, like 3M and DuPont, they would have to clean them up. However, he also rescinded the limits for PFAS regulations in our water supply. So this is really bad. However, what's great to hear is that states are now taking action, so we don't have to wait for federal limits anymore to start cleaning up these toxic cancer-causing chemicals from our water supply. Number 3, and you are not going to believe this one, major big plastic polluting businesses like Unilever, Nestle, and Coca-Cola are now supporting limits on plastic production. Seriously. Another session of the Global Plastics Treaty started today in Geneva, Switzerland. This is almost 200 different nations meeting with the UN and a lot of different business and industry groups trying to hammer out details to curb plastic pollution. We've already had 5 sessions of the Global Plastics Treaty, and in the past, those talks have stalled, especially when it came to curbing plastic production. However, many big trade associations and companies representing some of the biggest plastic polluters in the world have now signed on to an open letter saying that they want to start limiting the amount of plastic production so they can start curbing plastic pollution in the environment and save humanity, which is incredible. Literally, you're not going to believe some of the people that have signed on to this letter. Companies like Coca-Cola, Danone, Clarins, 3M, Aldi, IKEA, H&M, Keurig Dr. Pepper, Kraft Heinz, Lego, L'Oreal, Nestle, Mars, PepsiCo, SC Johnson, Starbucks, Target, Walmart, Estee Lauder. They've all literally signed on to this letter calling for the adoption of regulations to end plastic pollution. Now, of course, lots of people are going to be skeptical and say, well, this is just good PR. And certainly it most definitely is. However, they do have financial incentives to curb plastic pollution. Some of those are outlined in this open letter, which you can read, okay? Some of them are not, but I can certainly tell you one of the reasons that a lot of these companies are now signing on is because they are now getting sued majorly for it. Okay, there have been a number of lawsuits held against Coca-Cola and PepsiCo for the massive amount of plastic pollution that their products cause. And multiple lawsuits have been filed against Unilever for their products not being recyclable, right? So they have a financial incentive and certainly a PR incentive, right, to avoid more lawsuits, but especially if it's going to be harmonized and the same across the world. Ultimately, that will benefit their bottom line and boost profits if they can at least predict what the laws are going to look like in a number of years. So this is a really good thing that basically some of the biggest consumer product manufacturers in the world are signing on to end plastic pollution.